some way, next paper is about autonomy, beyond autonomy, searching for independency. But don't worry, it's not about the process. Dr. Daniel López from STSB Group will present the paper Little Arrangements That Matter, Rethinking Autonomy-Enabling Innovations for Later Life.
Thanks to Josep for the presentation, and thanks for coming and listening my presentation. My paper is titled Little Arrangements That Matter, Rethinking Autonomy-Enabling Innovations for Later Life. Despite it has been recently published, the paper is based on data collected 6 years ago in the context of 2 European projects, Effort and Value Aging, both projects concerned with the ethical and social consequences of ICT innovations for later life. So it is certainly a long time ago, but papers normally in social sciences need time to flourish. The paper attempts to critically discuss the current push towards increasing older people's autonomy, which is usually presented as a mean to pursue healthy aging, as a moral and political struggle against paternalistic policies and ageist discrimination, and above all, as a cost-saving solution to make a social and healthcare system sustainable enough to cope with the so-called gray tsunami. In particular, my intention is to raise some concerns about the leading role of ICT innovation in the promotion of autonomous aging by exploring how aging with autonomy is performed in real-life context when autonomy-enabling innovations are implemented, and in what sense technological innovation enabled or disabled older people to live autonomously. To reflect upon these questions, I will draw on data collected in an ethnographic study of the installation and user adoption of a telecare service, a telecare technology, in Catalonia in 2008 and 2009. I conducted several interviews and observations of all elderly users at their places. For the purpose of this contribution, I will focus on some excerpts from the field notes, which have been anonymized with fictional names and locations. These excerpts display some frictions with the telecare pendant that eventually turned into a matter of discussion with the users. So let me read two of them. During the installation, when the installer, Pera, shows the pendant to wear around her neck, Rosa, a 78-year-old woman who lives alone in a borough in the metropolitan area of Barcelona, come out of her apparent indifference to question the usefulness of the service. Rosa asks, what if I do not answer to the teleoperator? And the installer explains to her that they would send help and call her daughter anyway. But if I'm not at home, what happens? The installer replies patiently, the telecare pendant only works indoors. And Rosa complains, so if I'm not at home, it doesn't work. Oof. Then she explains that she's hardly ever at home, and the doctor has recommended that she goes for many walks. So if I forget to take the pendant off once, while leaving home, what happens? And Pera, the installer, replies decently, don't worry, nothing happens, but better if it doesn't go off while you're going downstairs without realizing it. It's okay, but to avoid shocks. Rosa roared with laughter. It's better then not to wear it and just use the phone. Pera reacts, no, you have to wear it, otherwise we'll achieve nothing. Rosa insists, but I can't get to the phone. Pera tries to make her see reason, but if you find yourself somewhere and you can't move, the phone will be useless. Rosa replies, but if that happens, if I can't get from here to there, then it is all over anyway. In Rosa's case, her daughter asked for the service to look after her mother. However, similar frictions regarding the service arise after 1 year, and it happened with users who willingly got it themselves and did not complain during the installation. That is the case of Monse, an 82-year-old woman living alone. She said, most of the time, I indeed don't wear the telecare pendant. One of my neighbors, who is pretty frail, wears it all the time, but I'm always going out and moving around up and down. Taking the telecare pendant on and off constantly would be annoying, and I don't want to wear it when I'm out on the street. That's why the telecare pendant is usually hanging in the kitchen, where I spend most of the time. It's near at hand, It is obvious that I couldn't reach it if I fell down. I'm aware of that. But if it happens, it is a question of bad luck. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know. I thought that it would be useful to have it here for the future when I will be frail. Actually, I do not feel I really need it now. I got the telecare pendant as a precaution. What we can learn from this friction with the pendant? We could certainly approach them as signs of failing adoption process in which the service is rejected or misused by the users and therefore not incorporated in their daily life. But I suggest a different approach to them. These frictions bring to the fore the social and material arrangements older people relied on to getting by as they age. These arrangements are frictioning because they underwent transformation and interferences among them when a new innovation, such as a social alarm, is implemented. There are at least two arrangements intersecting and frictioning. What I have called an arrangement of security and a community and family arrangement. There are more in the paper, but I'm going to stick to these ones. Both arrangements configure the user's daily life, places such as the home or the street, values and affects such as trust or fear, activities such as care, and also the aging identity of the users are defined differently depending on the arrangements. For the sake of simplicity, I focus on these two arrangements and sum up the main differences between them. As we have seen, the introduction of a social alarm set up a new spatial border between at home and away from home in terms of safety. According to the security arrangements, the home is defined as a container of threatening events bounded by thresholds of reachability and audibility. So the wider and the clearer the audio range of the telecare terminal and the more accessible the alarm button, the safer the home is. But some users show incompatibility. They prefer to use the phone and do not always wear the pendant at home. Because I think it's an important part of their life happens in the physical spaces such as the communal courtyards, stairs or building entrances, as well as virtual spaces such as the daily phone calls. These in-between spaces might be unsafe, but they are essential to independent living, as they inlays the space for the creation and maintenance of mutual support and solidarity bonds among neighbors and relatives. Moreover, some of them leave the pendant hanging on the wall because they don't want to define their home only in securitarian terms or in medical terms. This is crucial for them to feeling at home and see themselves as still capable of carrying out their daily life. Furthermore, in communitarian and familiar arrangements, there is no room for anonymity or standardization. Trust is built upon personal bonds. In fact, most users do not want to give their home keys to the telecare service because they do not know the person who might take custody of them. In contrast with securitarian arrangements, teleoperators are anonymized, and users trust instead protocolized and certified procedures. Caregiving and caretaking and the identity of the users are also defined very differently depending on the arrangement. In the security arrangement, care must be asked for. It is a response to an explicit request, pressing the alarm. Giving or receiving care is a matter of choice. On the other hand, within communitarian and familiar arrangements, care is embodied. It's an embodied burden that is usually gender-defined, routinized, entails unpaid care work, and it is hard to delegate to others without making meaningless, cold, and a source of guilt. These differences are also reflected in how the aging identity is shaped. In the security arrangement, older people must self-monitor themselves and adjust their lifestyle to foreseen risks. They are defined by risks. In the case of communitarian and family arrangements, they are entangled in reciprocal care relationships. They are also caregivers for other members of the community and the family, not only people at risk. The frictions between these two arrangements challenge the usual understanding of what aging with autonomy means and what might be deemed as good autonomy-enabling innovation for later life. It is clear that regardless the age, there is no such a thing as autonomy without arrangements. We are interwoven in different arrangements which define our particular ways of feeling, acting, and relating to the world. These arrangements define our agency. However, the constant adjustment the informants had to make in response to the installation of the telecare system bring to the fore two crucial aspects that were to be considered here: the fragility of these arrangements and the non-normative obligation of taking care of them. Living with autonomy certainly requires endlessly coming up with carefully connecting arrangements to provide users ourselves with balance. I think autonomy in this regard can be considered as caring for those fragile arrangements that hold us and enable us to think and act in a certain way. But if we put this non-normative obligation of caring about our arrangements in the center of aging policies, the role played by the industry of innovation in promoting independent aging is challenged as well. In many cases, the existing arrangements older people depend on to carry on with their lives are scarcely considered when developing technological innovations. Most of the time, these technological innovations are inserted in their lives as plug-and-play solutions that do not require any adjustment. And if they were not other solutions, mostly precarious and handmade, already at place. In contrast, we should consider these everyday and fragile social and material arrangements as truly innovations, instead of assuming as such each brand new product that promises to revolutionize the market for active aging solutions. This would firstly place the fragility of these arrangements at the center of design of any technological innovation, and secondly, it would generate collaborative innovation processes that could just adjust more easily and more effectively the arrangements needed to confront the challenges of aging. So just to conclude, instead of expanding the market for technological solutions, I think the most important challenge in aging societies would be rather to think about systems to maintain and care those little arrangements already at place that hold ourselves up. Thank you very much.